different Judas, in case people are wondering that this guy's from the Old Testament. So I just nixed one of the answers on there. So that should help
that
you.
Was a big hint.
That's a big hit. 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. And the reason why I got a little bit excited there is because we have Lester and Donetta in here, and I'll give their intro and then we'll get into it. But it's a blessing to have those who listen to Jesus and wanted to start this ministry in the first place. So Lester and Donetta Robben are the founders of Divine Mercy Radio, where Lester serves as the president of the board of directors, and Donetta served as the past executive director and continues as the board secretary. On Ash Wednesday, they embarked on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, and on the 8th day, missiles began flying over Israel. So that's what we're going to dig into today. It's a blessing to have you guys in here. Thank you for everything you've done for these stations. And maybe we can just jump right in then and start talking about, well, first off, what instigated your travels to the Holy Land?
It's always been on our bucket list, really. We're having a hard time deciding, do we want to do Rome or do we want to do the Holy Land? And I just, both would be great. But I thought, I want to walk where Jesus walked. I want to stand on that ground. So that's where we went. It was just a bucket list item.
Yeah.
But we didn't think we'd get to go because of all the wars and then COVID and wars, and it's just I guess God doesn't want us to go. He wants to see it from heaven. But then it kind of opened up and it was kind of peaceful, and they were starting to have pilgrimages back over there. And so we said, Father Edmund Klein, he was in here last year. Remember, he wrote the book on the rosary.
Yep.
He sent me a text and said, hey, I'm going to be leading a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. Are you interested? And it's like, yeah. So that's how we signed up.
Fantastic. What does it look like to get ready and to get over there in the first place?
Well, it wasn't that difficult. I mean, we had passports and stuff, but we just booked with 206 Tours. It's a Catholic organization, which made it pretty simple. They did all the paperwork, had the itinerary, everything planned, meals, hotels, travel. So nice. It was pretty easy, basically. You pack your bag and go. We tried to do a little research on, where we're going and what we're going to see and things like that. But
we had to get another passport just to get into Israel.
Yeah, they had a separate one just because of the controversy and everything going on there, the extra security with Israel. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get ready, hop on the plane, head on over there, and then where do we go from there?
Well, when we went over, we flew to Germany at first, and that's where we changed planes, and we flew into Amman, Jordan is where our tour started. This tour was a little different, so we had like 4 days in Jordan first to see some of the sites there, and then from there we went on to Israel.
Okay.
But it was a little different in Germany, just getting in the airport. Frankfurt's a pretty big airport, but they didn't have enough bays, whatever, for all the planes to pull up to, so we had to park out on the tarmac and get off the plane, get on a bus, and then they took us into the terminal, and it was snowing. So, we're on the way. We had our coats and everything packed away because, usually you're inside the terminal wherever you go. Well, it was snowing over there when we had to get on the bus and stuff. So that was a little different. And of course, everybody's speaking German, so that's different. So, but it was a good trip. The only thing is we got into Amman, Jordan, I think it was about 3:00 in the morning, and got to our hotel about 3:30. And we thought, well, hopefully we get to sleep in a little bit. I was thinking at 9:30 or 10 in the morning, we were on the bus going again.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't get a whole lot of sleep
that morning. Boom, boom, let's go.
Yeah.
But I think they do that to try and get you adjusted, get past the jet lag and everything like that. Just get you right into it.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, I'm going to break in really quickly. I've got a couple of announcements. It looks like Michael is telling me that all of Wednesday is officially up on the YouTube channel, and there is a link on our website at dvmercy.com. So if there are any of the interviews that you would like to see from Tuesday or Wednesday, I think they're all up there, and you can go to our YouTube channel. like I said, you can go to dvmercy.com, find the link there, or just go to YouTube and search for Divine Mercy Radio and find our channel. You can watch all those again. I also want to congratulate Nancy Niermeyer, who is our trivia winner. Question was, where would you find the story of Judas named the Hammer? And it is in Maccabees. Judas Maccabeus, the Hammer. Great a couple of books. By the way, those are a couple of the books that you would find in a Catholic Bible, but not in a Protestant Bible. And so you would want to go ahead and look those up because they give a really good history of the Jewish people as they're under persecution and then how they fight back and eventually win their temple back. So great books. Thank you, Michael, for writing those wonderful questions. Nancy, we'll get you put into that drawing today at the 4 o'clock hour, but let's get right back with Lester and Donetta Robben talking about encountering Jesus in the Holy Land. So do we want to then start at the end, where things are blowing up and everything and work our way backwards? Or do you want to build up to that?
Let's just build up to it.
All right.
Tell where we went our travels and things
Yeah.
like that.
In Jordan, they call themselves the Holy Land too.
Okay.
So there are some things there. Like Mount Nebo was in there where Moses kind of went up on the hill and looked at the Holy Land, but God didn't let him
The Promised
enter.
Land, yeah.
And
that was where he died.
that's where he died.
And they have a church built there on the site. Just about all of these holy sites, they build a church over something significant that happened over the ruins and stuff like that. But that was the first site that we actually had mass at. And we tried to do it at different places, every day have mass at a different holy site.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I thought that was kind of neat because it's like, wow, this is where Moses was here,
No
That's just
kidding.
pretty
Yeah.
cool, and to be able to look out over the Dead Sea to the Holy Land and everything, or the Promised Land. So it was pretty neat.
So now we have
Okay.
visuals when we read the
Yeah.
Bible. We have
Yeah.
these visuals, and it's like we were there.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And,
you get to go to Mass,
Mhm.
right? And then from there, you're in Jordan.
Tell them about the Citadel and Petra.
One day we went to the Citadel, and that is it's remains of a Roman temple. There's a Byzantine church called the Great Temple of Ammon, and it's also known as the Temple of Hercules. And it's like a lot of the pictures you see with the big pillars, columns,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But that's about all that's left is the columns, and then they have excavated out all the ruins, so you get to see the buildings and stuff that kind of where they were laid out. But the church there was still intact. They had put a new roof on it, and that was pretty cool. And just the beautiful, I don't know what you would call it, how they carved all of these columns around windows and things like that. But there's beautiful etchings and stuff in them. So I mean, it's handcrafted. Back in the day when they built all this stuff, that the hand labor it took to do that was just awesome.
Oh yeah.
And some of it was pretty weathered, and some they had recreated and put a new one in that was what it originally looked like. So you can see quite the contrast there. But also there they had a Roman theater. So from the temple side up the top hill, you could look down into the bottom, and they had this theater, out of stone, and that was in really good condition. And they said that seated 6,000 people. And so by that number of 6,000 seating, they figured that the city was probably 60,000 people, because every theater you went to, like that amphitheater, they did base it on like 10% of the community. That's how big they built it.
Okay.
So
Wow. So that would have been a decently big community.
Yeah.
that would be, yeah. And a lot of it was there, and they still had like the perimeter wall around the outside of it. The most of that was still intact and stuff. So you could definitely see how everything was laid out, and they had the pools where people went in and bathed in the pools, and
Yeah.
it was just a
Can
lot
you
to see.
imagine that now today that we all have our own showers? But there was
Yeah.
community.
Favor of
I'm not
community.
getting in that dirty water.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
really quick break. I want to thank Biggie Meats, because as we are on Facebook Live and we're on YouTube and Rumble, they are our live stream sponsors. So thank you so very much to Biggie Meats to being our sponsors for everything out there. And that helps Michael in being able to get everything out there on those live streams. I also want to remind everybody that we are on with Lester and Donetta Robben. They are the founders of of these stations. And we are on this spring carathon of Behold, I Make All Things New. And we are asking that you would partner with us into continuing to grow, continuing to put out with this wonderful content. We started this morning with $43,221. We still have a little over $12,000 in matching funds. So let's see if we can get those used up. I bet that we have some $5 donors, some 10, some 20s, but I also know that I bet we've got 100, a 500, and 1,000 out there somewhere. So if that's you, call in to 785-621-4110. Don't be the person that says, yeah, somebody ought to take care of that. Be that guy. 785-621-4110. Be that lady. 785-621-4110. Right back with Lester and Donetta Robben talking about their trip to the Holy Land. So where do we go from here? You've gotten to see some churches. You've gotten to see a theater. And then where did you head?
Just briefly, Petra. Just go
Okay,
briefly because
Petra,
we want to get to the Holy Land.
Yeah, Petra is one of the 7 wonders of the world. And it is in southern Jordan. So it was a pretty good bus ride to get down to that. But it is just carved into the mountain. Basically, it's a kind of a red sandstone.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of it. We had given some to
Michael.
So I don't know if he was going to be able to get those on or what. But anyways, it is just something to see because you're walking through this, I wouldn't say a tunnel, but it's a narrow pathway through the mountain there. And it's just steep on both sides, and you kind of wind through and you see what's around the next curve and thing. And then you come upon their main thing. It was the treasury is what it was. And that's the most famous picture of the things there. But it is just awesome. I don't know how
I'm
tall
looking at it now. That right
yeah,
there.
that's it.
Okay, yeah, you can look it up and just Google search it, and wow.
And they carved it. That was in 100 BC when that was built. And it was very busy until 106 AD, and that was when it fell to the Romans. They took it over. Then in 363 AD, they had an earthquake that destroyed a lot of it.
But there's a lot left. It's kind of neat how they built, because Jordan is water poor, and so they built like these ridges into the rock.
They did, like I said, you're walking almost through like this tunnel, you have this narrow pathway through and it's really steep on each side. And they carved probably about waist high, a little groove like into the side of the wall. So the water would come down and it would catch in that little trough. And then they had it run downhill into a basin and they collected that water. On one side of the hill, they had water for like the animals and everything like that. On the other side, they were collecting water for humans, for the people. Wow. So it was amazing. And they were talking about how it was all at a 4-degree angle, the slope of that water. So it would catch it and run it, make sure it traveled down at the right speed and everything. And didn't waste anything
back there.
Yeah, it was very, for that time.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that is
it's
really
amazing.
Cool because we often think like, look how technologically advanced we are. And,
yeah.
And you look back and you're like, look at what they built with nothing.
With a hammer and a chisel. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was something to see. And there were a lot of rooms. There was an amphitheater there and things. So, but anyways, you could just look it up. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world. So that was kind of cool to see that.
Absolutely.
Can I say something about the culture in Jordan?
Sure.
The culture in Jordan, well, it was totally, we haven't been outside of
we're
Kansas
pretty
really too much, but like it was Ramadan, and I don't know if they just do this during Ramadan or if they do this all the time, but at 5:30 in the morning, the Muslims' morning prayer wakes you up. It is blasted through the whole city. Like our sirens would be blasting through the whole city, their Muslim prayer is being blasted through the whole city in the morning and again in the evening. And so I just told Lester, I said, can you imagine if we blasted morning prayer and evening prayer?
Hear people complain about the bells ringing.
I know.
Yeah.
But that was kind of a different thing that we encountered,
Culture,
I guess, a culture thing.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So where are we heading from Jordan?
Then we went to Mount Nebo.
Where Moses
Well,
died.
that was where we've already talked about that. That was where Moses, and we drove past on the way the Dead Sea, and we didn't go to it, but we could see it from a distance, and that was about it there.
Yeah, I've been told
you-
that if you go there, you can go in it, but you're only allowed to be in it for a little bit because the salt
The
content
salt,
is
yeah.
so high it'll damage your body or something.
Yeah.
Nothing lives in there. There's no sea life or
Yeah.
anything like that. So that's the perfect word for it, the Dead
Yeah.
Sea. Yeah.
Well, close to where Moses died, though, there was the fortress of where John the Baptist was beheaded.
Oh,
Was that
really?
right?
Yes, that was, I think the same day we
Yes.
went to Mount Nebo.
It was pretty close by. So they even showed us, it's like everything was carved into a rock, like the cave, the jails,
That was one thing that was different as we were driving through the hills and stuff to get to Mount Nebo and all these other places. There's caves all over the place dug into the hills. I don't know if they're natural caves. Most of them probably are. But, and where John the Baptist was beheaded, at the top of the hill is, who was it? King Herod was his fortress, basically, had like a wall around it and things like that. And they call it a mount, like Mount Nebo and things like that. But to us, we'd call that just a big hill. It's not like the Rocky Mountains or something like that, But and then they, said that's where Herod was on top of the hill, and John the Baptist was. We always saw it in prison. He was held in jail, but that was a cave, and it was lower down on the hill. You could see the cave, so that's where he was, and that's where he was beheaded and stuff like that. So
Wow.
that was interesting.
So do they still have then part of Herod's
Fortress
there? Or?
Yeah, it's mainly ruins, but there's a lot of it
okay.
there. Yeah, you can still go up and see that and stuff like that. It's a pretty good hike,
Okay.
up the hill. But one other thing that I thought was interesting, we don't see around here, just like last Sunday we talked the gospel about the Good Shepherd. You see lots of shepherds over there with little flocks of sheep, and it looked like there were maybe 20, 30. But they would be right along the roadside. The sheep would be eating grass out of the ditch.
They're not fenced in like
They're not
here.
fenced in or anything. That's why they have to have a shepherd there. But I mean, they're so used to the bus comes roaring by and those sheep don't even flinch. They just, they step out on the road, boom.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that really does go back to your other point that, now that you've walked there, now that you've seen it, the Bible probably really comes alive when you read those things.
Yeah, you visualize it differently, which is
Even the mysteries of the rosary.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yes,
Yeah.
you pray the mystery of the rosary and you think, I was there.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That was one thing we did every day. We had mass, and if it wasn't at some site, it was at the hotel, but generally it was at some site. And then on the bus, we'd pray a rosary every day at 3:00, do the chaplet. So it was very peaceful, prayerful, and everyone's a Catholic. So, just that unity and stuff. We had, I think, 31 people in our group. So it was a real nice group. So to make some friends there.
Were there a lot of Catholic sites in Jordan also, or is that more toward the Holy Land?
More toward
Israel.
Toward Israel, in Jerusalem and around there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I figured, but I didn't know if did
yeah.
you guys have a mass in Jordan anywhere
Oh, yeah.
there? Or?
Every day
We did
had
at
mass.
Moses.
We had a mass every day.
We had a mass
and we
every
were there
day.
4 days, so I don't know where all our masses were.
But the very first mass we had at a site was where Moses died on that mountain there, Mount Nebo. And it was a pretty good sized church there, and it was pretty modern. The ruins they built churches over the ruins, and in there they had half of the building was almost a big mosaic on the floor. That's the big thing over there. There's mosaics everywhere.
Beautiful.
Walls and everything, ceilings. They have a lot of mosaic.
Yeah,
and they have shops where all they sell is mosaic stuff.
Wow.
So it's pretty.
That is really neat.
Yeah.
You are listening to Divine Mercy Radio Spring Carathon. Behold, I make all things new. We're talking with Lester and Donetta Robben about their trip to the Holy Land. If you would like to partner with us, please call 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110 to make your donation. We do still have those matching funds left. Let's please use them up. 785-621-4110. Let's jump right back in, though. I think we're probably about ready to head to Israel.
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
Go ahead.
Well, the old city, Jerusalem, there's this great big dome. It's
The
almost
gold
like
dome.
it's almost like what I envisioned the Vatican dome. The Vatican is a big dome, isn't it?
I think that would be St. Peter's, maybe.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But I've seen pictures of it, but this it dominates the whole landscape.
Okay.
And it's a location where Muslims believe Muhammad ascended into heaven, and the Christians and Jews believe that Abraham was ready to sacrifice his son Isaac at that place, at that big dome. So that's kind of the big thing in the landscape.
Yeah,
Okay.
it stands out. It's definitely the dominant factor in Old
Yeah.
Jerusalem. Yeah.
Then we went to Nazareth where the Word was made flesh.
Oh, fantastic. And so
Yeah.
what did you get to see there?
That was the Church of the Annunciation, the birthplace of John the Baptist, which is a small village there. And they built a church over the site called the Church of the Visitation.
Well, we had the
Visitation.
Church of the Annunciation first, and
Yeah.
then we went to the Church of the Visitation.
Yeah.
It kind of went in order.
Okay.
Okay.
So did you guys get to see at all the kind of the distance of the trek that Mary
Yes.
would have made to visit
Well-
Elizabeth at all? Or
No,
okay.
no.
I mean, we did it by bus, and we weren't really at the time.
Weren't
we were
really
praying.
paying attention.
we weren't
Yeah.
paying attention
I was just
to the
always
travel,
curious how far that was.
how far of a
and,
walk that would be. Yeah, that would-
According to some mystics, it was like a 2 or 3 day journey.
okay.
And Joseph went with her and then went back home and went there again to bring her home, is what I've
Mhm.
understood from the mystics. Now, that isn't anything, in the Bible or anything.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So what are some of the things then that you saw, and what was your experience like with them in Israel?
well,
Go ahead.
do you have
Yeah.
anything else to say about Nazareth? Because I'll jump to
No,
Bethlehem.
go right ahead. Go right ahead.
They built a church over the place where Jesus was born, and we got to go right in there. There's this, I guess
It's a
they know
marker.
the exact spot where Jesus was born, and it's in a cave, and it's like a star. Like
Yeah, it's like
Thing.
like a gold big star, whatever. You know,
we got to go right in there. We even got to sit down and have somebody take our picture with that in the middle of us. Now, they've told us in the past there have been so many pilgrims that it's a 4-hour wait just to get
Wow.
down there. But for us, there was no wait because
so tourism just
Tourism
wasn't really
hasn't
rolling yet.
picked
They were-
up.
Yeah.
yeah. And so we just got to go right down there. And then,
We go
then
through
we,
and
yeah.
you know,
Is there anything else you wanted to say about that? Because then we went to the place where St. Joseph lived. the Holy Family
Yeah,
lived.
where the site where Jesus was born, it was cool. Like she said, we got to go right down in there. They told us the history of it and everything, and then we got to go in. And they said usually you may spend 30 seconds in there. We got to spend a little time in there, and then you go out the other side and come around and then view some more things. And we're standing around talking, and I'm asking my guide, because everybody's been through, can I go in again? He said, yeah, go ahead. So I went in. I was down there by myself with just a priest. It wasn't our priest.
Fantastic.
But it was cool. I got to spend a few minutes down there and just to kneel down, touch that, put your hand on that spot.
I mean,
It
just
was a very moving, very powerful experience.
Wow.
just think of God, so spiritual and so loving that he created all of us, but then he allowed himself through his son to become one of us. It just, you can meditate on that forever.
Oh yeah.
It just, it's
Mhm.
just amazing how much he loves us that he did that.
Absolutely. Okay, so where do we go from there?
We went to where the Holy Family lived, right?
Yeah.
Church of St. Joseph is built over the place where the Holy Family lived. Did we have mass there, or where did we have mass that day? They crammed so much into a day, and they gave us a journal. But then when we are on the bus, they were constantly talking about where we were passing by and everything. So we didn't really get to document everything. So we're going back through our notes and
Yeah.
our pictures, trying to piece this all together. And so next time we ever do a pilgrimage, we're going to have to take better notes.
Mhm, mhm.
Because
Just take one of those little voice recorders with you.
Really? Yeah. Listen. Yeah.
and
record
then
it.
by the time we got back to our hotel at night, we were just so exhausted.
I bet so. Really quickly, I'd like to jump in here. We've got an anonymous donor of $1,000. So thank you
Oh,
so
praise
very much
God.
for that. That helps us to use up some more of those matching funds. Thank you to that anonymous donor and to those who donated our matching funds. And we also want to thank Fred and Kim Taylor, who have pledged $700. So between those two, that's a $3,400 donation between those and our matching funds. And so thank you so very much for the $1,000 donation, the $700 donation from Fred and Kim Taylor. Please keep them coming. Please keep calling in to 785-621-4110. That's what we're doing right now. We are on our spring carathon. We do this twice a year so that we can continue to grow and continue to spread the gospel. We are on that carathon right now that we have titled, Behold, I Make All Things New. And I'll tell you what, folks, Jesus has made all things new over and over and over again with these radio stations and all the wonderful things that he's done. And he does it through your generosity. So we want to throw out a big thank you to all of our listeners and to all of our donors. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for what you do. Call 785-621-4110 with your pledge. We are talking with Lester and Donetta Robben about encountering Jesus in the Holy Land. So we left off there with going to where Jesus was born.
And then
And
where
you
the
saw
Holy
that.
Family lived.
Wasn't that the church where they had all of the, like they have the red candle above the,
Oh, yes.
the
Tell me about
tabernacle.
that.
Yeah, you know, the lit
Uh-huh.
candle where so you know where Jesus was. Jesus
Uh-huh.
in the tabernacle. In this church, there are probably hundreds of those things hanging from the ceiling all over the place.
This
And
is where
these-
Jesus was
Where
born.
Jesus was born, and some of these
Okay.
they're not just like our singular candle.
Uh-huh.
These are big, like chandelier monstrosities
Oh, wow.
hanging with red candles in them, and it was just a sight to see. Just to walk in and look up the ceiling and look at all those big things.
Was that where the walls were really dark
Uh,
and the light of the world?
no, that was at the Garden of Gethsemane.
Okay, see, I get confused.
I understand. I mean, having crammed all that stuff into this little
Uh-huh.
bit of time, I can understand. So was there anything else that you wanted to tell us about that site, or
No,
what do you
that
have
pretty well
next?
covers that. What was next then?
Well, we went to this church where the Holy Family lived, and then we went to the Pater Noster,
Paternoster, yeah.
where
Oh,
Jesus taught the
the Our
disciples
Father.
how to
Yeah.
pray.
Now that is a monastery, a Carmelite monastery.
That's
Okay.
where they
Yeah.
began their order there.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I think my boys would say it's pronounced. Is it
Notre or
Pater Noster or something
Oh,
like that?
yeah.
I would-
They would correct me.
Yeah,
if
we
I- and so yeah, I wouldn't know.
I
That's
don't know
exactly
either.
how I
That's
would have
pretty-
said it.
Yeah.
I would love
Yeah.
to learn Latin, so maybe
Yeah.
your sons
I
could
know,
take
yeah,
a
yeah.
class for it.
And as we walk through that monastery down the different hallways and things, they have the Our Father in about every language you can think of
Every-
on the wall, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
And we're all looking for where's the English version. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
And then next to it was the location where Elijah confronted and killed the prophets of Baal.
Oh, that's one of my favorite stories in the
I
Old
know.
Testament. I'd love to be
Yeah.
there and see that.
Yeah.
Is there any special markers or anything?
It's
there,
just
or-
a sculpture that marks the scene.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know, that's
Yeah.
what's there. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
but it's just like cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And from there we went to Capernaum, and we went to St. Peter's house. We had mass there. There's a church built over that side, and the church is kind of raised up, so it's right over the ruins, and it's right over the room. They have in the church they have a like glass panel in the floor that you can look down into that room.
Oh, that is very
So that
cool.
was pretty cool, and we had mass there that day. And then every site that we went to, the readings were for like that was that gospel or that passage
Oh,
from the
yeah.
Bible. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And so was it Father Klein that
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
said mass for you guys?
Uh-huh.
every
And we had a
day?
Yeah.
deacon too. I don't remember where he was from. but-
Yeah, I don't know where he's from, but he always assisted every mass. And then we got to lecture and stuff, anybody who wanted to. And, you know, we had our own musicians, singers and things. So it was
And
pretty
then he
well
had
done.
different pilgrims sign up to pray the rosary on the bus and
try to get everybody involved.
the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. And I guess I was the only one that signed up for the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. So I led it almost every day.
Yeah.
So,
But one thing
It's
that was
kinda
cool
neat.
about like where Peter's house was, and it's in the middle of all these ruins too. And you could kind of map, you could see like where the roads were and where the buildings were. And St. Peter was like maybe 1 block away from their chapel, whatever the church there.
Oh, wow.
So it was really close to
you
that.
want to talk
Yeah.
about the
Cool.
healing of
Go ahead.
No, you can talk
Let's
about it.
you
really
should.
quickly.
Okay.
I'm going to break in really
Okay.
quickly so we can do our second trivia question. So, as you are listening to us on Divine Mercy Radio, whichever station you are listening to, or if you're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, however you are listening to us, we do have our spring carathon going. And we have titled that, Behold, I Make All Things New. What a beautiful title for this spring carathon, especially as we have spring in full, well, kind of. I mean,
This morning, it's a little wintry weather
this morning, you know, but hopefully
Yeah.
that spring weather comes back. We've got everything greening up and becoming new. So what a wonderful title for this. We do have that total goal of $125,000. So as you get ready to call in for this trivia question to 785-621-4110, you can also make your pledge at that same time if you would like to. Let's have Lester read us our next question.
The question is, if all roads lead to Rome, then what city was Jesus born in? Was it A, Rome, B, Carthage, C, Athens, or D, Bethlehem? That's Rome, Carthage, Athens, or Bethlehem.
785-621-4110. If you know what city Jesus was born in, call that same number to give us your pledge today and help us to use up those matching funds. Let's get back with Lester and Donetta Robben. All right.
At St. Peter's house, this is where you remember the scripture where they lowered the paralytic through the roof. That was his house.
That was at St. Peter's house, which we didn't.
Yeah, I did. I
get
never
together.
thought of it. I don't know what it
So-
says.
I thought it was just some random person.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did too, but they said it was St. Peter's
So
house.
the roof was
Well, probably a
somewhat where you
thatch, yeah,
could-
or I don't know what the palm leaves or what they laid over them to be able to just peel that off. But
Yeah.
whatever it was made of back in the day. But all the walls are stone, and stone is everywhere over there. It's prevalent. I mean, even in today's world, the modern Israel over there, they're built. Everything is out of like limestone. All the buildings are that kind of white limestone, and the new ones, everything. There's just so much of it over there that's just cheap for them to build with.
Wow.
One thing that was different too, and I think that I saw this more in Jordan, as far as buildings, that they build houses and they're square out of this like limestone, and then they build up. And I noticed on the corners they have like beams sticking up out of the roof. And I was asking our tour guide, why are those beams sticking out of there? And he says they do that so they can extend the next gen. People have a family, and as they grow and their son gets married or daughter, whatever, they build another floor above, and that's where they live. And then they build another floor above.
Wow.
So if you had a family like yours, you'd have a skyscraper.
That's what we were saying. We said, can you imagine what the
That was just
Tower would
different,
be?
different things, how they live over there.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that is a good testament to family too.
Yeah.
You know, they take care of their own.
Exactly. And then the younger, it'd be like the old days here where the kids took care of their parents when they were older.
Yeah.
So they're all together.
Yeah.
So that was kind of different.
Hoping for my kids. So. Really quickly, I want to congratulate Lorraine Brungart. She is our trivia winner. Thank you for listening, Lorraine. You got that question of if all roads lead to Rome, what city is Jesus born in? Was Jesus born in? And the correct answer there is Bethlehem. So thank you for listening and thank you for calling. We'll get you put into that drawing for that $50 gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts here in Hayes. And once again, Jerome and Angela Schmeidler are the owners of that. Please go support them. And also, Michael says, maybe I should make the questions longer and more nonsensical. Now you're doing a good job. Thanks, Michael. We are listening to Lester and Donetta Robben talk to us about encountering Jesus in the Holy Land. So we want to jump right back into where we left off.
Let's go on then to the Church of the Beatitudes.
We went to the Church of the Beatitudes where Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mount, and it's a sloped land, and where Jesus would have spoke, it would have created a natural theater for his voice to just go down. So that was kind of neat. And then we went to the Church of the Multiplication of the Loaves. Next door was a synagogue where Jesus preached the Bread of Life sermon too. So that was all kind of close together.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's not a church, there's not a Catholic church where the Bread of Life discourse was or anything?
I don't
It
remember
was an old synagogue, but it
Okay.
isn't just the ruins of it left, but not a church that is being used.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Church of St. Peter, that was on the shore of Galilee. And that was where the rock where Jesus cooked fish for the apostles after he rose from the dead and asked Peter if he loved him. And there we got to go down to the Sea of Galilee and, put your hand in the water, put your feet in the water, whatever. And that was pretty cool. And they have a church built there now. And there's some natural stones or steps. And he said, this is where Jesus walked up the hill, up these steps. And So it was pretty cool. We didn't have mass there, and that was a pretty small church. It wasn't very big,
Mhm.
but
Then we got to take a boat ride
yeah, we did.
really?
Yeah,
on
we
the
got,
Sea of Galilee.
that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
And then while we're out on the boat, well, they had what they play the national anthem, and we had a
The
retired,
American national anthem.
yeah, a retired
3-star General Tom Jones.
was in our group, so he got to go up there and raise the
Raise the
flag
flag.
and
Oh,
stuff like that. So it was
fantastic.
it was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool. And then as we went around the Sea of Galilee, they were pointing out, our guide was different events and things that happened. Like you hear the story about the swine, the devil going into
Uh-huh.
the swine and going off the cliff. He pointed out those cliffs and stuff like that.
Oh,
That's where that
wow.
happened. And it was neat. It was cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
You ride and you just think how the waves could have come up and been so big because it was a calm day
Yeah.
the day we went out. But
I don't know how wide the Sea of Galilee is for them to have crossed. I mean, you can,
see
I don't know
it.
how many, you can see it. I mean, it's a few miles. I don't know how many miles,
Uh-huh.
but it's not like the ocean or something, but it was neat.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, just to be able to be there too, where they would have gone fishing, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that is really neat.
And
Okay.
then
Okay, what's next?
we renewed our vows at the wedding feast of Cana, where there's a church there, and we all got to go in, and the tour group gave us white veils to wear.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
white long veils, and
We had mass there first, and then
no, I don't think we had mass there. We didn't have mass there. We just renewed our vows, and then because it was late in the afternoon, and we already had mass. But
at that site too, it was another thing. It was built over the ruins of where this actually happened, so you could look down through the glass floor and see, where the wedding feast actually
Uh-huh.
was, the wedding feast of Cana. So
yeah, whereas it's his first public miracle, so it's a pretty
Uh-huh.
big deal.
Do they have any
Uh-huh.
of the big jars that
I didn't see any. No, yeah, I was hoping for that too. I didn't see any of those. Yeah.
Okay.
And
It
the
was
tour group gave us this big, beautiful certificate, kind of like a
Like a marriage
like a
certificate.
marriage certificate that said we had renewed on this date by Father Edmund Klein. It was
Cana.
really nice. The tour group really took care of us.
Yeah, they
So,
Okay, so where do we head from there?
did. Then we went to Magdala, the birthplace of Mary Magdalene, and we spent a couple of nights there and kind of toured around there. There's a site right there where our hotel is, and it's the ruins of Magdala. And
the Legionnaires of Christ rebuilt it.
yes. Go ahead.
It has 5 chapels. One of the chapels was the woman with the hemorrhage, and it just like covered the whole wall. I mean, I could just
It was
stare at it. So much. The one thing we had to buy was a replica of that picture because, all you see is the woman's finger going out, like this, and there's sparks as she's getting
kind of like
closer
the creation
Oh, wow,
story,
yeah.
to
yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know,
It's a
it just
powerful
touched
picture,
me.
so
Yeah.
we bought a replica of that and
Yep.
have it at home.
Wow. Yeah, you should have brought that.
I
There's probably a
thought
picture
about it.
online somewhere.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
there is. I'm sure you could order them online. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that
Okay,
had to
what-
be a
what-
pretty moving experience.
Yeah.
What do we got next?
Oh, this is the most
you
touching
talk
part for
about
me.
that. I'm going to try and find this here.
I gave Michael a picture of it, but there's this rock with like a hole. This is where Jesus was lowered down after his arrest and spent the night, tied up.
The pit.
It was called the pit. Yeah. And it's just a hole in a rock. And I don't know. I just looked at it and I just thought, oh my gosh, everything he did for us, and he was tied up in a pit, for a whole night.
I'll
It just,
show you a
I don't
picture.
know.
That's
It just,
the hole in the ground.
Oh, wow.
That
Yeah,
they
it's
lowered
not
him
much
down.
bigger than your body.
No.
it isn't. Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
really, I don't know. It just touched me. And then they let us go down the steps to the bottom of the pit. And somebody from our group started singing, "Remember me when you come into your
I'm
kingdom."
going to see. if
And
I
so
can
we
pull this
we
up and
just
play it.
chanted it all the way down. And it just was really moving
Wow.
to go down where he was
No
tied up.
kidding.
I don't know. I just like, how could you do that to him?
Yeah.
I don't know. That was probably one of the most touching things that I saw.
Wow.
Go on, I'm going to try and
Okay.
figure this thing out if I can get it to work here.
After that, we went to the Church of All Nations. Now, this church was built over the rock where Jesus agonized in the garden. And it's called the Church of All Nations because all nations paid to have it built. Even the U.S. contributed to have it built there. And so the altar is right around that rock where Jesus agonized. I mean, it's just up from the floor. And Lester got to lecture at that mass, but that was kind of touching too. So
Can't get it to play.
then we had bombs.
And then all of a sudden things went south. So.
So you can talk about that.
Well, that day started out as far as the bombs. We were just heading out that morning, and we were heading to the Mount of Olives, and the sirens went off as we're going through town. So the guidance says we need to go back to the hotel. So we turned around and went back, and then we waited at the hotel maybe a half hour, and we got the all clear. So we headed out again, and this time as we're heading through the city, traffic is just nuts. I mean, people are driving over curbs and stuff, and I said, what's going on? And our tour guide said that when the sirens go off, people have to go to school and pick up their kids.
Okay.
They won't keep them after the sirens go off for the day. You got to go get them. So people are just in a panic to go get their kids. So traffic was crazy. Anyways, we got through that. And then we went to the Mount of Olives, and then we toured that. And right after that, we went to the Church of the Teardrop. What was that called?
I think it was called Church of Tears.
Church of Tears, yeah.
I don't know that it would be the same as back then, but can you give us a description of what is the Mount of Olives like? It's hard for us here in Kansas.
I had the total wrong perspective of that because I was thinking, a Mount of Olives, olive garden trees and stuff like that. And to me, it was just a bunch of overgrowth and stuff. But I mean, you got to figure it was 2,000 years ago this happened, So to me, it was just a hill. I didn't get much out of that, really.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it's just kind of like, if we'd go out here north of Hayes and go to one of our bigger hills, but with just more growth on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it was like.
Yeah.
Okay.
And from there, we go to the Church of Tears, and that is where the sirens went off for the second time. And we're outside, we're walking to this, and the sirens go off, and I look up, and I didn't see the missiles going over, but I saw two vapor trails after. You could hear them go across. Wow. So we stepped into this church then just for protection. But my instinct is the sirens are going off, and I'm thinking a Kansas boy with tornado sirens. I want to go outside and go look, and then I thought, no, you probably shouldn't do that with missiles coming. I didn't have much of a chance to move. So the first one that went over, you could hear in the distance a boom. That it intercepted a missile coming in. And then about 30 seconds later, there was a kaboom. And I would describe it like lightning struck on your block that you lived on. It was that loud. It was just wham. And right away, Father says, I'm going to give general absolution to everybody right now. So that was kind of neat. And then after he was done, he says, now when you get back home, especially if you have mortal sin, you still need to go to confession. But there was one gal in our group that was single. I think everybody else was, I don't know if everybody's married, but they were with partners or mother-daughter, things like that. And she was just freaking out. So some of the ladies settled it, calmed her down. And after that, the guide asked us, what do you want to do? Do you want to continue? We can go back to the hotel. And everybody says, no, let's go on. So,
once again.
Well,
so we left there.
Israel has that Iron Dome.
Yeah. And that was one thing, too, that retired general that was with us. He says, really, you're probably safer here if missiles are flying than if you were in the United States because they have their Iron Dome here to protect you and shoot them down. So that was a little comforting.
How the sirens, the different tones in the siren, so they know where it's going to land.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
If the siren is louder, that means it's coming to your area. If it's just a general siren, just beware. There's missiles in the air.
Just beware.
Yeah,
casually. Oh, there's another one.
Yeah, it's just a tornado watch. It's no big deal. Not a warning. But that was interesting. But anyways, from there, then we went down, walked from there down this hill, and you're heading down the hill because this is where Jesus went to Mount of Olives or to the Garden of Gethsemane, and so it's across the valley from Old Jerusalem. So as you're walking down the hill, you can look and this is the path that Jesus walked. Anyways, then we get to the Garden of Gethsemane, and there is still that probably looks similar to the pictures you would envision.
Okay.
Yeah. and we had mass there. And that church is built over the rock that Jesus prayed on in the Garden of Gethsemane.
I thought it was the other one.
No, that was at the Garden of Gethsemane, because that was
I
where
thought
I
it
got
was
to
at the
lecture, and I
church.
thought that was pretty cool. And that was really touching, because one thing that surprised me, this rock is huge. I'd say it's kind of flat. It's not, a domed rock.
Well, we don't know what the bottom might have
Well,
looked
we don't
like.
know. I mean, that's what the church is built over, but it's kind of flat, and you could go up to it and lay your hand on it and pray. You want to say a prayer, and that was touching.
Yeah.
And I got to lecture there, which was kind of cool, because the altar is right next to the rock. The rock is directly in front of the altar, and I'm on the opposite side of the rock, doing the readings for the day. And the reading is the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. So that was really touching.
Wow,
that was
no
cool.
kidding.
And we saw trees where
The thorns.
the thorns. There are actual trees that thorns
Well,
grow on.
Well, that's where they got
I
them back in
know,
the day.
I know, but it's
It
still
was
there.
amazing how long those thorns are on those trees.
Kind of like our thorny locusts around here, and
Yeah, probably even that big,
Oh,
even longer. I mean,
some of those have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the way these are.
thorns there.
Yeah, that's the way this works. And it was
Yeah.
a good sized tree. So
Yeah.
that was
and lots of them.
lots
yeah.
of them. So then where do we go from there?
I think we had to go back to the hotel.
We might have. Yeah, I think we did have to go back to the hotel after that. And then in the afternoon, he asked us again, "Do you want to go out and see some more?" Everybody said yes, we do. And that was where we went to the pit.
Oh, okay.
And that was the last site we got to see, because while we were there, the sirens went off for a third time for the day. And then 206 Tours, I think they just called it to an end. They said,
Okay,
that's it, we're done.
Yeah.
We're done.
They called our tour guide and said, just get him back
Bring
to the
him in,
hotel and
yeah.
shelter for the day.
Mhm.
And then
Okay.
within an hour or two, everything just shut down. The
Yeah.
airports were closed, everything closed.
Yeah.
It just
Even
just
the holy
was
site,
so
so you couldn't really go
fast.
see anything anymore. Everything was
know.
shut down.
And then it's like, okay, well, I guess we're trapped here.
And while we were at the hotel that day, that afternoon, the sirens went off again, and then they made us go down in the basement for a little bit. So that was
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
You are listening to Divine Mercy Radio Spring Carathon. Behold, I make all things new. And we want to thank you first for listening. We want to thank all of our donors. And we want to remind everybody that we have this pledge drive going on to help us to continue to grow and to continue putting out this wonderful material, these wonderful messages of the truth of the gospel. Call 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. You can also go to dvmercy.com. And if you go there, you can donate there, but you can also look at the thermometer to see where we're at. You can check on what the programming is going to be for the day, check on some of our regular programming. So please do visit our website there at dvmercy.com. You can watch us live on Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. And we also want to ask that you would prayerfully consider joining with us in our mission. Call 785-621-4110. Let's jump right back in with Lester and Donetta Robben. And we got to the point of their story where now they're having to bunker down a little bit. Missiles have gone by several times, and so they put you in the basement for a little bit. And so then what happens after that?
Well, we needed to contact our kids, and we were so careful how we contacted them. I mean, Lester would type the
Text
message,
messages. We were
text
texting back and
message,
forth,
and
yeah.
then we'd read it because we didn't want them to worry about us. We felt safe, and but I think
They
that
were more concerned than we were,
I
but they
think
were
the
getting
news
more news than we were. The
reports-
news reports
Okay.
here in America for the war starting over there.
yeah.
But all this is going on, and I was never fearful. While this was happening, I wasn't afraid. It's like, if God takes me now, that's okay. I told her, I guess we're all prayed up. We've been to church every day, rosary every day, chaplet every day.
Absolution.
I'm in the Holy Land. I have a general absolution. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
So I just wasn't concerned. The only time I really worried was when we got on the plane to leave. And then I thought, boy, if they shoot this thing down. And we didn't know for sure if we were even get to fly for sure, but we did and got out of there.
What was the process like leading up to? How did you get to a plane? Because as you guys were texting people, they were letting us know what was going on, which was good because we had no idea that you got, this was affecting you so
they
close.
bussed us back to Amman, Jordan, where we
The
came
next day.
the next morning. we got up and went there. And that was quite an adventure just getting there because they have checkpoints along the way. And the first checkpoint we pull up to, the tour bus, there was one ahead of us, and we pull in one line and stop. And on the side to the left of us, there's cars and vans, and they were stopping them individually, letting them, it was moving through pretty quickly. And then on the outside lanes on each side, there are buses that aren't even stopping. They're just flying right on by. And I asked our tour guide, what's the deal with those buses? Why do they not have to stop? Because they're Palestinians.
Okay.
So it was
There's
just,
persecution of Christians.
yeah,
He said,
yeah.
we just have to wait our turn. It was
Yeah.
a 6 hours.
took us 6 hours to get out of there.
Really?
And it wasn't that long of a drive. I mean,
No.
and we got through that checkpoint. We spent 2 hours there. Then we get to the next checkpoint, and that we were probably there an hour, hour and a half, something like that. And then we finally get to the border where you pull in. Then we have to unload the bus, take all your luggage off, run it through the scanners and stuff like that before they let us get out of the country. So it was a 6-hour ordeal. Yeah. Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
smokes.
And my mindset is when these other buses are passing us and these guards are standing there with guns in front of the bus and not letting us pass, are they wanting a bribe or are they just persecuting us? And the guide said they're just persecuting us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even in the Holy Land, when we were in Jerusalem, there are neighborhoods that are Jewish, and Friday nights there's gates that go from street to street. Nobody can
Block
go
the
in
streets off.
unless you live there, and the only people who can live there are Jews.
Yeah.
And so that was different to us. That segregation.
Yeah.
But-
Well, our guide told us that the population of Israel is like 10.2 million people. And there's only 180,000 Christians in there.
Oh,
So
wow.
we're
So
a
it's
real
very
minority.
small,
Yeah,
yeah.
very small. Yeah.
Wow.
But I think they depend on the Christians a lot for the tourism and stuff too, so
Uh-huh.
they want to let us in.
Wow.
But some of the things that we were a little disappointed in, that things we were really looking forward to was like the Via Dolorosa. That was the Way of the Cross,
we were going to
This
get
is-
up real early in the morning and walk the Stations of the Cross that
Yeah.
Jesus walked.
That was what the plan was, but it never
Oh, wow.
happened. And then that same day we would have got to see the Holy Sepulchre, the tomb of Jesus and all that
Uh-huh.
stuff. So that was kind of a disappointment, but it's like, that was just God's plan, and that's the way it worked
Yeah.
out. So I guess
we
we
were
go with
gonna-
that, and thankful for what we did get to see.
Yeah.
We
really.
were going to go to the Cynical tour, the Last Supper and Pentecost.
Yeah, the upper room and that. But
And then the Church of the Dormition, where Mary was assumed into heaven. But God wants us to see that from heaven, I guess.
and the thing is when we were in Jerusalem, we were staying at the Notre Dame Institute, whatever it used to be a school, now it's a hotel, but it was right next to Old Jerusalem. I mean, one night, I think she was looking for cough medicine or something for one. So I walked over and went through the gates and walked into Old Jerusalem and
Oh,
to
really?
do a little shopping at night there. Yeah. So that was the only time I got inside the walls. So we drove by it, we're going around it every day and stuff. And, I got to see the Golden Gates on the east side and stuff like that. And that's just the way it was. So that was one
Yeah.
disappointment, but
Yeah. Well, maybe in our last 5 minutes here, are there things that you would say, pointers you would give to people that are maybe going for their first time, recommendations or anything like that you would have for those listening?
you had a good point there, just recording specific, but you'd have to record an awful lot because there was a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on. I would take better notes or try to at least, but like you said, the days were just so packed full of stuff. You just didn't have time.
Yeah.
The guide's talking or praying or
Yeah.
something. There wasn't much quiet time, alone
Okay.
time. So,
Um,
but
this tour 206, I think it's the same tour company that Father Brian Lager uses, but they took care of us.
Mhm.
That night that everything shut down, they were working into the night to get us out of
make arrangements.
Israel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not everybody was going back home to the States. Some were going to Rome from there. And it was just, they took every individual where they needed to go and got them tickets. And there was only one airport in Jordan that was open because Jordan's kind of like the central place. Missiles
It's
fly
right
over
to-
there.
It's right
but
to
they
the
don't-
east of Israel.
Yeah.
So, and I was watching when we left because I had the TV screen in front of you on this seat in front of you, and you could track where you're going. So I was watching just to see how we're going to get out of here. And we were, Amman is more in northern Jordan, and we had to fly all the way south down around Israel. We couldn't, the short route would be cut across Israel, but that airspace was closed. So and while we're in the air and stuff, and I'm thinking, man, I hope we don't get hit by a missile here.
Jeez, really?
Made it this far.
Or if somebody,
It was a long trip home.
my thought was if somebody wanted to kill a lot of Americans, this would be the plane to blow up because
But
there were
God
a lot
took
of
care
us.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I would highly recommend 206 tours if you're going to go. I was talking with Father Brian yesterday. We had lunch together, and he was saying that he's went with them before. He said they're a little more pricey. He said he thought it was maybe $1,000 more than some of the other tours, but he said, but it's worth it. He said they take care of you. They're very knowledgeable and great tour guides.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes our tour guide would say, I think we should take a detour and go here and see this site or something. And then he'd have to call 206 to say, hey, can we do this?
Yeah.
But, yeah. So they had to know where we were at all times. And that was kind of cool.
Okay.
So,
Well, as we get ready to wrap up here, as members of the board and as our founders, is there a message you want to leave our listeners with?
one thing I want to say before we end our talk here, when we came back, so many people said they were praying for us.
Yeah, we had no idea. That was cool. I mean,
Like, how did you know?
Rick Binder was connecting with our grandson, Weston,
Oh,
who
yeah.
goes out to TMP, and every day is, what's happening over there? What are your parents saying?
Yeah.
And so then they would pray for us. So that was really touching.
Yeah.
We had no idea all that was going on.
And I said,
Wow.
we're here because of your prayers,
Yeah.
so that was kind of neat. And then we want to just thank all you donors. I mean, this radio station would not exist without your donations and your prayers. So thank you so much for everything you do for Divine Mercy Radio, our volunteers, everybody. So, and Cody, you do a good job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yes, you do. And Allison's done a great job.
Yes.
She's a natural
Absolutely,
too.
yeah.
She's a natural
It's
too.
been a good week. Yeah. I want to thank you too for all you do, not only on the board, but especially this too, because you're taking away from your work and your time and stuff like that. And so
Well, I got a
appreciate
good boss, so.
that. Yeah.
Thank you, Father
Heavenly
Jimmy.
boss. Yeah. But I just want to reiterate what Donetta said. Just thank everybody. I always say this station is your station. It's God's station. We're just, his hands and feet and vessels to try and help spread the message and evangelize. Thank
There
you.
go. Lester, Donetta, thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you for everything you do. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
too.
you.
We've been having a discussion with Lester and Donetta Robben, and they were talking to us about their trip to the Holy Land and all kinds of things involved with that. If you would like to please partner with us, that's what we're on here for. We're on our spring carathon. Behold, I make all things new. We're asking that you would call 785-621-4110 or go to dvmercy.com and you can donate there. Once again, just reiterating what Lester and Donetta said, this is your station. You guys have done all the hard work, all the hard lifting, and all the donating. We do still have about $12,000. No, probably about $10,000 to $11,000 in matching funds. So let's see if we can get them used up. You're listening to Divine Mercy Radio on 101.7 KJDM Lindsborg and Salina, 105.7 KMDG Hayes, 88.1 KRTT Great Bend, 88.1 KVDM Hayes, 89.1 KGOH Colby, and 107.3 K297AI Hill City. We're going to switch over now, and we're going to let Mr. Michael Lager take over and get a good interview with Deacon Bill Mayer.